All right, so once again, we hear this horrible drumming sound. It's getting louder and louder, especially after a reported statement by Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta that he believes that there is a very strong likelihood that Israel is going to strike Iran in a matter of months.
Israel is preparing to attack Iran and to carry out that attack within months.
Strong warning from Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta. Israeli leaders are considering attacking Iranian nuclear sites.
He is openly talking about Israel's ambitions.
Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, who believes there's a strong likelihood, writes that Israel will strike Iran in April, May, or June.
Israel might carry out a unilateral strike on Iran's nuclear sites sometime in the spring.
This is a strategy to warn Iran to back down or face consequences.
Now, this is the kind of news that should make us all ask a lot of questions, and it should make all of us feel very uneasy. The last thing that this world needs is another war or any kind of military conflict for that matter. And it becomes all the more confusing when you think of how all over the place the statements are, right? When the IAEA released their report on Iran's nuclear program late last year, there was no sign that they're currently working on developing nuclear weapons. They said that the bulk of the work that could be weapons related was all halted in 2003. And they had some information that modeling, design work was being done until 2009, but that's it. Then we heard from Leon Panetta just last weekend when he was on 60 Minutes that he believes Iran could build and set off a nuclear weapon within 2 to 3 years if they decided to. Now the thing is, when James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, testified before Congress this week and released a report from this country's 16 intelligence agencies assessing threats to the U.S., he specifically said that they have no evidence that Iran's leadership has decided to pursue a nuclear weapon. So if there's no evidence that they've decided to do it, then shouldn't we be reminding people of that? Shouldn't reporters be cautioning that, hey, maybe this is an important element to be brought into the debate? Now, unfortunately, what Chuck Todd over at MSNBC did today was exactly the opposite. He brought up a completely different part of this intelligence report that we heard this week and decided to see if there are any ties between the two.
Richard, how did you interpret the intelligence report earlier this week? And this is why where you sit here and you try to put sometimes 1 + 1 together and see if you are coming up with 2. When the intelligence report by the U.S. intelligence community to Capitol Hill, to Congress, indicated that the Iranians are planning a way to strike at the United States, militarily. You put that out publicly. What are you trying to say?
I think you're trying to warn the public, and the U.S. intelligence community has been burned so many times. I think they are going out of their way to tell the American people and tell members of Congress what the potential risks are.
All right, so this is where the problem lies. A, that instead of questioning whether this report that said that Iran is now the #1 terror threat to the U.S. is a little over the top, or whether it makes any sense, Richard just basically says that they're doing this just in case so that they can have all of their bases covered. And he doesn't even blink when he says it, like it's totally normal. Fearmonger away just if you think that it might save your ass at some point in the future. Now, this should bother a journalist, not be a completely legitimate and unquestionable explanation. And B, why do I get the distinct feeling that if anything does happen between Israel and Iran, that the chorus for the U.S. to join in, support Israel, a chorus which of course will be there either way and is there currently, but that chorus will become all the louder because people will start pointing to this report. It says that Iran is the #1 terror threat to the United States. And the mainstream media isn't going to ask what exactly it is that we're getting ourselves into war over again. Is this a preeminent act against the possibility of a small-scale terror attack, or is this a preemptive act against Iran developing a nuclear weapon, which they haven't done yet? Neither one makes much sense, and yet I get the feeling that what we saw today will only continue and will become fused together until all logic leaves this discussion, and it'll all be fear-stoking all around, much like we saw with the build-up to Iraq. Now, I hope that I'm wrong, but if today is an example, hell, if the last couple of months are an example of how the mainstream media is approaching the issue, breaking down the real facts and the logic, figuring out what it is exactly would justify a war, well, sounds like all of that they're going to miss.